Secretary of State John Kerry traveling to Russia right now for a meeting with President Vladimir Putin as the deadline for an Iran nuke deal looms closer. It's June 30. So meanwhile, those very negotiations could be the reason why the kings of two key Middle East allies, both Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, shockingly just decided that they are going to skip the Gulf Nations Summit in the United States. This is a very big event, sitting down with President Obama this week. Former New Hampshire Governor John Sununu served as White House Chief of Staff under President George H.W. Bush, and he joins me now. Governor, great to see you this morning.
Martha, how are you?
Now, just to point out to everybody at home, I'm doing well, thank you. King Salman, who's the new king of Saudi Arabia, just took over several months ago. He was supposed to have a one-on-one sit-down meeting with President Obama the day before this summit got underway. How big a deal is this snub?
Well, I think it's emblematic of the way the president has messed up America's relationships with our key allies around the world. King Salman is a very shrewd guy. He's sending a message, and he's actually having his cake and eating it, too. He's sending the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Nayef, who's an extremely smart leader in that part of the world, who understands the U.S. extremely well and who has great relationships with the key departments and agencies here. So the king is sending a message, and yet he is going to get as much as Saudi Arabia can possibly get out of this assessment.
Also Bahrain, which is the host of the Navy's Fifth Fleet, which is our main sort of counter to Iran's naval forces in that area. When the leader of the country that we have that kind of arrangement with also doesn't want to show up, how significant is that?
Well, that's significant. And also when the Emirates decide to send their crown prince, Mohammed bin Zayed, who is also a great friend of the United States, understands our agencies, our departments, used to be, and is defense minister. And so they, too, are having their cake and eating it, too. Sheikh Khalifa, who is the leader, is not coming, but their crown prince is. This is a strong message to this White House. You as a White House, you as President Obama, always were talking about leading from behind. Well, now you are behind. And we don't have to jump every time that you say, let's get together. I think it is a crucial defining moment for this White House where they better decide whether they want to participate. They botched up Syria, they botched up ISIS, they botched up Iraq, they made a mess of the Arab Spring. This White House has just shocked our allies in that part of the world, and they've found a way now to get a direct public message to the president.
Wow. Strong words. The president has made a lot of this 60-nation coalition that is supposedly fighting ISIS in Iraq and in Syria. But then you've got the situation in Yemen, where Saudi Arabia is on the opposite side from us. And Yemen is a very important area, obviously, to Saudi Arabia, and they don't want to see that fall to the Iranians. Can the president walk this back, or will the Iran deal fall through as a result of this? What happens next?
Well, I don't think the Iran deal rises or falls because of this. I think there's a message there to the president, though, that the leaders of that part of the world do not like the direction he's taking the Iran deal. I think this president is so stubborn he may not even pay attention to their message, but they are giving a message that this Iran deal is bad for the region and bad for America and bad for the world.
Yeah, the White House has said it's not a big deal, that this is just sort of a calendar rearrangement, but it's quite obvious that it certainly appears to be more than that. Big picture before I let you go. We see a situation where the Saudis are building a closer relationship with Israel. You see a realignment going on. Egypt and Israel and Saudi Arabia on one side, and the United States making a deal with Iran on the other. Big changes, sea change in these setups.
Look, it boggles the mind to hear that kind of rearrangement taking place. Certainly, it is good to see a closer relationship between the leading Arab nations and Israel. But for that to come about because the United States is shunning them and proceeding with a deal with Iran that makes them scared is ridiculous. This president has to stand back and go back and look at the role of the United States as a stabilizer in a complex world and again, accept the leadership. If he doesn't, the next president, Republican or Democrat, is going to have a huge challenge on their hands fixing the Obama mess.
What would you tell the Republican would-be nominees here to tell the American people they would do about all of this and these alliances?
I would tell them they would bring it back to the kind of international cooperation that existed under George Herbert Walker Bush, Bill Clinton, and even George W. Bush.
John Sununu, thank you. As always, good to talk to you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.